We welcome you back to the Patrick Netherton Show right here on 1130 The Tiger. He's Rogers Hampton. I'm Patrick Netherton. We are very excited to have you with us, and man, glad I'm here. Glad I didn't get arrested trying to go over the state line and get brisket. But we'll have more of that tale when we come back after we talk to our man John Ourand from Sports Business Journal. Haven't spoken to him in a bit, but if you want any information having to do with the sports media out there, the business side of sports, John Ourand and his folks at Sports Business Journal, Sports Business Daily are the folks to turn to. John, how are you, man?
Patrick, I'm the filler for the brisket story.
Well,
that's a tough spot to be in, man.
Well, I already told most of the story, so I don't know how much you follow. I know you're up kind of in D.C., but the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, has a moratorium on traveling from Louisiana into Texas because Louisiana has had a much higher infection rate than Texas has at this point. So
right.
I'm a Texas barbecue guy. I just love it to death. I eat it as often as I can. Shreveport is about 12 miles from the border of Texas. There's a particular place about 45 minutes away that I'm hankering for. So today I decided to risk it for the brisket and went across the state line and told the story of how it all went. And it was honestly as easy as could be. I went and got my food and got to eat and came on back and luckily didn't get thrown in jail.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
Well, it was a lot of fun. Also kind of makes you realize that this travel ban from Louisiana doesn't seem to be particularly high on the priority list of the Texas law enforcement. Because there's about 100 ways
out that barbecue joint soon enough.
Yeah, exactly. My poor friend Steven at Riverport Barbecue is going to be in trouble. They're going to have cops galore over there. Before we get into all the business side of things, how are things for you? I know D.C. is kind of an interesting place in the middle of all this. How you, your family, how are y'all handling everything?
Yeah, you know what? I got to say, selfishly, things are going great because I have two kids in college, and they're back home under one roof. So we have a full house with three kids. And I thought we would never have family dinners again, and we're having family dinners, and we're fighting and arguing and laughing and having fun. And I feel bad for them that they're not out of college, but selfishly, I'm having a grand old time, sort of reliving my young father days.
No, that's pretty awesome. And when you get to have them there, I always tell everyone, I laugh all the time. I'm like, babies are really dumb. Like, babies are just dumb. They can't take care of themselves. They can't communicate anything. Like, babies are pretty dumb all the way around. When you get to have your kids there and they actually have intellect and you can have adult conversations and all of that stuff, that's the fun times, right? When you can actually have that relationship with your kids.
I don't know. Sometimes teenagers are dumber than babies. But yeah, the point is definitely taken.
That's beautiful. Well said, John. John Ourand from Sports Business Journal joins us. All right, let's. Sports being sort of canceled, postponed, everything's being pushed back. We're seeing a lot of reactions from the various sports media entities. Just recently, ESPN coming out saying their high executives and their highest level talent are taking pay cuts. Are we kind of seeing a uniform response to this, or does it feel like everyone is sort of feeling everything out in individual packets as opposed to, hey, everyone's kind of having the same response?
Well, in terms of sports media, so ESPN and NBC Sports Network, Fox Sports 1, they're all approaching it pretty similarly, which is they have a big library of old games that they've been showing. Those old games generally don't rate very well, and it's hard to get people to sit down for a game that's 20 years old and watch 2.5 hours of it. The people generally just kind of want to see maybe in half-hour increments or something along those lines. But ESPN has been a little bit different. ESPN has studios fired up. They have live programming during the day. It's taken a little while for Fox to do it, but over the past couple of weeks, Fox Sports 1 has started ramping up its studio programming as well. NBC Sports Network is, they have the Rich Eisen show on there now. They have Mike Tirico hosting an interview show. So they're getting beyond that first initial shock where they were like, oh my gosh, what do we put on other than now that we have no more live sports, let's put on old games. And after that initial shock, they're doing a lot more live programming, which is helping a little bit here and there. But all of those networks are predicated on having live sports. Live sports are all that brings in any kind of ad revenue, rating, TV ratings, and without them, they're really going to struggle until they get them back.
Yeah, we're the other thing that I think is very interesting, and look, I've never been a draft guy. I don't care about recruiting, and I don't care about the NFL draft. I just don't. Let me know where everybody is, and when they hit the field, I'll think it's great. I can't get into it. I never have gotten into it, but I find myself more interested in this year's draft, not from a who's going to select whom, what players are going perspective, but from this is a really weird, novel approach to the draft with everybody is going to be off in remote locations, all of that stuff. I kind of have two ways that I'm approaching this, John, and that is I think a lot of people are going to watch just because it's something live having to do with sports. That's not a canned interview or talking heads talking. This is real live legitimate sports. And I think people are interested, like on my end, because it's weird and different. And it's something unusual and unique. I've got to imagine that the NFL draft is primed to have a really good following and a really good number because, hey, some sort of live sports are back.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's going to be up to date, live-ish programming. So what they're going to do is they're going to simulcast exact same production across NFL Network and ESPN, and then they're going to have ABC carry a couple of rounds as well, to where that's where people that aren't hardcore football fans, like just a more casual fan, is going to be able to watch that and really get kind of the stories behind the players. And I just think because there's such a thirst right now just for something new. I mean, you saw when Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay, it took up about a week worth of programming on some of these channels. I just have a feeling that the ratings for this NFL draft are really just going to go through the roof.
How much are you? I mean, obviously you would be watching for the production value. Not that you're a media critic per se, but you'd be watching for the production value for who's saying what. Are you more interested in this because of the unique aspect of how it's going to be presented and how the picks are coming in and who accidentally leaves their microphone open and says something they're not supposed to say? Like, that's what interests me about this.
Oh, without question. I'm like you, where I can wait. I can wait a couple hours and see who picked who. I don't need to. I can sit there and watch the draft in general years. But it's very similar to watching Saturday Night Live over the weekend. It was something that was done remotely, and it was just so unique and unusual. I don't even know if it was very funny at all, but it was just kind of like, it was comforting just to see people that you know and have been watching that are sort of on the screen again, plausibly live. And I think, seeing Mel Kiper kind of do his thing is just going to feel that it's going to feel a little bit comforting because he's going to be talking about something of consequence as opposed to, sitting around and doing what they're doing now during the week, which is talking about not live sports and not the sports that happened the night before.
Oh, is Jordan or LeBron the greatest? No, I don't need to hear any more of that. Thanks. I'm done with that conversation. Like we're basically moving into June and July non-baseball market sports talk radio. We're into our should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame? Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks from Southern California. I mean, that's where we're at right now, and it's hard sometimes. Certainly, talking to John Ourand from Sports Business Journal. All right, John. One of the interesting aspects one of the things I saw, this has been, I guess, a couple of weeks ago now, was and it is DAZN, right? DAZN.
DAZN, correct?
DAZN, yeah. I saw that they have decided they're not going to. They're not going to pay their rights fees out for the sports that they're missing right now. Obviously, the NCAA basketball tournament got canceled, so there's going to be missing rights fees there. Do you see a move afoot from the various entities, the Foxes and ABC, CBS, ESPN, to renegotiate in some way or to redo some of these contracts, some of these payouts to the sports leagues based on abbreviated seasons based on canceled seasons, that kind of thing, like we saw DAZN do?
Oh, absolutely. And every contract is different. So there are some contracts where, it all depends on how big and powerful the league is. So it all depends on leverage. So the NBA and ESPN and Turner are paying them, and right now there are no games, and there is a contract. But these are, the thing about sports is it's so relationship driven, and the NBA knows that it's going to be in partnership with ESPN and Turner for at least another 5 years. And in both cases, those are deals that go. They've been with ESPN for 20 years. They've been with Turner for more than 30 years. So they're sort of long relationships. So they're less likely to hold those networks right to the letter of the law. And I can tell you that executives from ESPN and Turner and executives from the NBA are all getting and just trying to negotiate and everything. What made that DAZN story so unique is that word leaked out that they went and kind of said to the leagues, we're not paying. You're not seeing that. And I'm just using the NBA as an example. You're not seeing that with ESPN and the NBA. You're seeing them really trying to work quietly to come up with a solution that is, that both of them like. And what I'm waiting for is that nobody knows how long this is going to go on for. Nobody knows when, games are going to start to be played again, and nobody knows when games are going to start to be played again with fans in the stadium. And so there could come a point where now all of the conversations are very nice, and there could come a point where the financial situation is really hurting one side or the other, and that's when some of the flare-ups could start. They're not there yet. They don't appear to be close to being there yet.
Do you think, I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like we've reached or are very close to kind of the limits that we can get on these contracts, that at some point they've either got to stabilize or start getting smaller. Do you think that going through this may have a long-term impact on how much money the networks are willing to spend, how they're negotiated, the power structure of them? Do you feel like there's going to be any long-term impacts from all of this on the contracts as they get negotiated going forward?
Not one bit,
really,
Patrick. I've been doing this for 20 years, and each contract that is signed, every time it's signed, everybody talks about how expensive it is and how there's no way that this can keep up, and they keep increasing. And what you're seeing now is, especially as we go forward, the broadcast television and cable television is so dependent on live programming, like we just talked about, and the biggest ratings they get by far are from live sports. And so the importance right now of live sports to these broadcast stations is so big. It's almost like their entire future depends on having it. So all the leverage right now is with the sports leagues, and they all have multiple bidders in all of the different networks that want to come in. There's always the fear that Google, Amazon, Apple, one of them are going to start to swoop in as well. And so it's like selling a house. If you only have one bidder, the price is going to come way down. But if you have multiple bidders, it's going to soar. And right now, all these leagues are looking, and there are multiple bidders out there, at least for the higher profile leagues. And so those, you can expect those rights to keep going up, I would think.
Well, live sports are the only DVR-proof things left in television, aren't they?
Well, they have an engaged viewer as opposed to somebody sort of leaning back and watching a general entertainment show.
Yeah. It's pretty wild, and I think even more interesting to see how this all plays out. Like, I look forward to November, right, when the Masters is going on. What does CBS do on their typical SEC Saturday? And I haven't looked to see what the matchups are supposed to be on that weekend, but what does CBS do with their normal SEC broadcast when they've got the Masters that weekend? I think there's some interesting decisions.
What do they do on Sunday, Patrick? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
When they have the NFL going there, and then what does what does ESPN do when they have an NBA playoff game that's on a Monday night, or NBC when they have an NHL playoff game? This fall, if everything comes back as people expect, is going to be crazy.
Yeah.
And it's going to be so good for viewers because there's going to be so much content, and it's going to be so bad for these networks because there is way too much content to sell. The ad rates are going to drop precipitously coming this fall.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating, and I know you'll be on top of it, and we'll definitely be staying tuned into you to kind of keep us informed of what's going on. John, so good to talk to you, man. Please give the family my best. Make sure the teenagers aren't as dumb as babies when they're running around out there, all right?
Hey, Patrick, it's been too long since I've been on. Thanks for the invite.
You got it.
Always good to come on.
All right, John Ourand, Sports Business Journal. Good dude. Again, at Ourand _SB.